Okay, fantastic. Welcome to all of you. Now, let's see, who has a question or a comment for any of the speakers on stage? Raise your hand. All right, let's kick off with Carlo. Do we have a microphone for Carlo? Where is the... No, it's also for the people online to hear you, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the talks. Really interesting session. And I like Jason's definition of era 5 that we all know and love. I will use it. My question actually probably is starting with Peter, but is a bit for everyone, and links also to what Bill and Hans were saying at the end. Is also take advantage of Jean-Noël Seppo, who's following the discussion online and is typing question as you speak. So is a result of a collective thinking. The question is about era 6. We are talking about era 6 getting into production 2024, and it will be roughly 10 years after era 5. So what is the right timing of the analysis? And should we be thinking, for instance, of aligning with the cycle of the IPCC? So 5 years is maybe too short, 15 years is too long. Is 10 years the right timing?
Is this on? Yes. So IPCC is a strange beast because one of the major problems is the CMIP is phased with it, but the CMIP models are available and used in IPCC, but there's virtually nothing in the literature. In an ideal world, any new product would be available 3 or 4 years in advance of the due publication date for the assessment report. Now, that's not going to be possible with ERA 6. The next assessment report will probably be appearing in 2027, 2028. The trouble would be that although you might produce the reanalysis just in time for that, there will be no time for someone to produce analyses, to produce literature, which is what we're fundamentally assessing. So yes, in future it might be worth thinking about the 7-year cycle of IPCC, but don't plan to have your assessment, your new reanalysis ready 10 days before the cutoff. You need it 3 years before the cutoff so that people have the opportunity to produce analyses with them, which we can then assess and include in the assessment.
Fantastic. Thank you for that answer. Yes, Luigi, the mic is coming to you.
Hey, this is Luigi Ponte. A quick introduction because I'm the new kid on the block. So I'm from Italy, and I work at the Italian National Agency for New Technologies and Energy and the Environment, ENEA. And I'm basically a user of climate information. We've been dealing with climate services in agriculture and over the last decade, I think, but more recently myself and my colleagues, we have coordinated a Horizon 2020 project on climate services in Mediterranean agriculture. And I have a question for the ERA 5, ERA 6 people, and it's related to a data set that is of high interest to people like me, because particularly myself, I do ecosystem modeling, and there's an effort made by the CDS that is called Ag ERA 5 that greatly enhances the use of the reanalysis by users in the field, because that's targeted to, you know, in terms of daily time step, in terms of daily circadian rhythms that the organisms that we model, the plant and the pests, do in the field is very interesting because it needs very minimal post-processing to be used. So I was wondering whether that effort is going to be extended into ERA 6, and we're going to be able to extract further value from the benefit that the ERA 6 effort is being made. Thank you.
Thank you, Luigi. Hans and Bill.
Yeah, I think Chiara is in the starting blocks to answer that question, I think. But this is an application which is an application on top of ERA 5. So we have the atmospheric forcing and the land and so on. And then we apply it and then for ERA 6, of course, we can do the same thing and probably better. I don't know whether, Chiara, you want to add to what I said?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, the AEG ERA 5 is one of the, most used product among the different activities we followed. And yes, there is plan to not only to maintain what exists already, but also to update it with a new cycle. And how to do it is not clear yet. It could be done in different ways, but yes, definitely the information will be maintained and associated to the new reanalysis products.
Thanks, Chiara. And just wanted to stress the importance, because this session is about reanalysis and how important they are. But this is a key enabler for people to really take it up, because otherwise I'm starting to see papers in ecosystem assessment in my field of work that people just use ERA 5 land as it is, sometimes don't realize what they're doing. So having a further processed product for people to use is very important, because that's an aspect of quality. Because if you lower the access barrier for people to use something that is reasonable, and you decrease the degree of freedom in making mistakes, basically. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Luigi. Is there another response to this on the panel? There is none. Any more questions or comments from the big room, the small room? Okay, we have two. Let's start on the corner. Maybe it's nice if you tell us your name and for whom you work, and then ask the question.
Hello, I'm Gilles from Vortex and Climate Scale. One quick question from an end user, and it's about the reanalysis. Is when you say 17 kilometers or more, what do you mean by more in terms of the resolution? Or what is the resolution you intend to reach with ERA 6?
So is that 17 or 17?
17.
17, okay.
You mentioned 17 kilometers.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Could you repeat
the resolution of
when
ERA
you say
6?
a resolution of 17, what do you mean?
Or more?
So we're doing tests on a configuration that would give us 14 kilometers resolution, and that seems to be realistic at the moment, but we're being conservative in saying 18 kilometers or better. Okay. But it's likely we will be able to do 14 kilometers. But that really depends on final testing and a new supercomputer and exact configuration of the EDA that accompanies the high resolution model. So until those tests are done, we can't be definite, but I think the indications are we should be able to do 14. Do you want to add to that, Hans?
Yeah, well, actually, it's more like 12 and a half, but it's, the thing is that that fits to the question that was asked to me, is that...
Hans, could you put the mic a little closer?
Okay.
Yes.
So, of course, we want to use a model version that has been very well tested. So, 18 kilometers as a resolution has been extremely well tested at ECMWF because the Ensemble data simulation system, the operational system, currently runs at 18 kilometers. Then we have the next one, which is very well tested, is a 9 kilometer. So the 9 kilometer is our operational system at ECMWF at the moment. But in between, we have a number of resolutions we can choose from, but none of them have really well tested. So we have, it looks like we have the capacity of going to higher resolution, but we have to be confident also that these resolutions, that the other resolutions are well tested. And it also depends a little bit on, and we don't know yet, on the speed at which we have to produce, and if the faster we produce, the more, because of parallelization is not optimal, he needs to throw more resources to it, but a little bit more than you would need if you do it slower. So there's a number of factors that we are investigating now. So I think at the end of this year, I think we have a good idea of the resolution we want to achieve, but I think 18 kilometers, that should be more than doable.
Brilliant. Carlo, and then we return to Chiara.
intercepting. I was going to flip the question around. In the sense you were asking, what is high resolution? And I would like to ask you, as a user of Euro 5, what resolution would you like to see? What will be useful to you?
Okay, thank you. So my question is again, about the users of reanalysis. Mr. Sebastian is here. So you were showing this very nice and interesting study, and you used together the Euro 5 reanalysis and, of course, data of other nature, other typology of data with their own metadata. And I was wondering what made the Euro 5 fit for purpose for your study, and on which aspects instead you think reanalysis could change in order to make them better for your case or your applications from any point of view. It could be technical, scientific, or the way it is served, for example.
Very good.
Thank you very much. This is a very good question. What makes the ERA 5 data most fit for purpose? Obviously, it has the, let's say, necessary spatial and temporal coverage that we need for this kind of models. It covers the globe, so we can easily do an analysis for all of Africa. It has hourly resolution, so that's the kind of time step we need for these kind of capacity expansion planning exercises. But it also has one additional very nice advantage. It's free. It's all there. We can just go and download it. Which means that anyone can work with this. The code that we've developed can be used by anyone, basically free of charge, and that makes this kind of data set accessible for the stakeholders that we work with. Yeah.
Which aspect could we change to make the product more?
Which aspect could you change? You could.
In your reanalysis, for example, the hourly resolution you said is a very important aspect, and it's good. I don't know, other variables, other levels, or yeah.
You could give us money for using it.
Higher resolution.
Hold on, this is C3S, not the Commission.
No, I would say right now the biggest advantage, any kind of improvement is obviously welcome. For us, the biggest marginal benefit would be in higher spatial resolution, I would say, because right now we have to do this additional step of bias correcting to the mean that we get from the pixels in the global solar and global wind atlas, so that we can distinguish certain spatial features like windy hill ridges and stuff, which in ERA 5 are kind of averaged out. That is an additional step that we can perform, but it's not that straightforward, especially for wind. You have to preserve Weibull shape and stuff like that. You can do it, but it would be nicer to have just one data set that prevents that extra step. But it's okay for now. Yeah.
We have one there. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thanks. Alberto Troccoli from Insight Climate Service and World Energy Meteorology Council. And yeah, regarding the resolution, I would tend to agree to some respect with my colleague behind me. But colleague, yes. But on the other hand, I think given that a lot of effort is put on a reanalysis like ERA 5, I think we should push the resolution as much as possible, because it's for the benefit of the overall efficiency of the system, because otherwise we end up doing, a lot of us are going to do the same work that you're doing, repeating many times. However, what I would like to suggest is that on top of adding resolution, you can also think about a community effort to, probably not from commercial providers, but some of them as well, but from a scientific community, to extend when you are testing the system before you go out, because I know there's always issues that come up after. If we can avoid some of them and try to do the assessment before, you have like a 6-month window where you send out the test and include people from agriculture, energy, and so on, look at various applications and try to iron out all these issues that can come out before. And then, of course, there's the issue of producing data sets like ag ERA 5, which are really useful for applications. And so a question about trying to produce those data sets. On top of that, from the commercial providers, there's always going to be, we come up with innovations and we'll find out. But in the grand scheme of things, having one center that does that in an efficient way and provide the best product we can, I think is best for all in the world. Thanks.
Do you want to comment on that, Hans?
I want to make a comment on your comment. Yeah, I think it's a very fair statement that it is good if we have like a pre-release. So we are a 5. We had a test data set. It was only for 2 months. It was a test data set for a period of 2 months before we published anything else. But that was more for users to technically get ready for the higher resolution and so on compared to ERA interim, because ERA interim was, of course, the norm at that day. But I do agree it would be good if you would have a mechanism to at least have people to have a peak review already in advance before we start the real thing. Yeah.
I see a hand going up over there. Alexandra? All right, if you don't mind, we'll start there first. It's closer.
Actually, my question, Remy from C3S. My question is very similar to the one that has been asked, so I will be short. It's, I think from a user perspective, now that ERA 6 is brewing, I think it would be nice to see from the people from the EQS maybe like a timeline of the user engagement, what you expect people to do at which stages. For example, if you have deadline for delivering comments onto the specifications or stuff like that, because I think it would help people to say, okay, it's in 6 months or it's in 3 months or something like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the comments. I think we'll talk with you even afterwards because really interesting comments. We tried to do, because the first phase we did like cover the eyes and do the evaluation by ourselves. But now we want to really reach out. We want to start from the beginning. So now we started our contract like a few months ago, but we want to start to talk with the users right now because otherwise what we provide, we keep working, but may not be useful. So that's why we are really eager to have the user information and talk with them. Definitely, we would have different stages. The contract will be 4 years, but a long time. We want to have the engagement all the time, actually, at different stages, because also we have different types of data sets, and we really want to engage, we co-design together and to do the languages and also the information they provide. For example, one time I met a user, and he told me that I use this data set, but my boss told me, what do you think about the data set? Is reliable or not? So I think they really need to know, to tell their bosses that, you know what, the data I use, I can trust. So that's the information we want to provide to users. Yeah, thank you very much for the comment. If you don't mind, I may contact you later. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I have a question for Sebastian, actually, and perhaps Hans. So you showed wonderful maps for Africa on the energy. By the way, my name is Gerrit van der Schrier, KNMI. Should have started with that, sorry.
No worries.
I was wondering about the uncertainty of your results. So in Africa, there are not too many stations, and many of these stations actually provide gap year records. So these data also go into the reanalysis, and I understand, of course, that satellite data also goes into that. But the ERA 5 also provides an uncertainty estimate. How did you use that uncertainty estimate in your analysis? And I was wondering, are there many users actually interested in this uncertainty estimate? Or, well, do they simply use the ensemble mean and that's it?
That's a good question. I would say generally we tend to work with data from multiple years and then kind of look at the statistics of those results to see to keep interannual spread into account. We've also done some exercises on, as you say, there are not so many MET stations, but they exist. So we do compare the data we get from ERA 5 on solar irradiation, on wind speeds to any kind of measured data we can get. We haven't found any major issues. So the kind of profiles that we get on seasonal scales, on daily time scales, that all checks out. For the kind of applications where we use this data, which are energy models or capacity expansion planning models, it's okay to have a bit of uncertainty. The most important thing is to capture the overall trends in terms of differences between day and night, differences between different seasons, so that we know what to dispatch and when. And then we can run sensitivity studies by taking a different meteorological year, for example, and seeing how sensitive are the results to that. So that's generally the approach we take. We haven't explicitly used the uncertainty estimates in ERA 5, but that's actually an interesting idea. So we might look at that. Thanks, Gerard.
It's indeed interesting to hear from Bill to what extent other users are interested in these uncertainty estimates.
Yeah, as you know, we provide uncertainties based on the EDA, and those are effectively cycle by cycle uncertainties in a synoptic situation. But what we recognize is that many users are looking at climate trends, and for climate trends, you basically average out those cycle by cycle synoptic uncertainties and reveal something quite different about the uncertainty budget that we don't address. And the reason we don't address it at the moment is it's not really a pressing issue for operational NWP. But for climate reanalysis, it really ought to be. So we recognize that there's some method development required there to enable us to provide uncertainties on states which are averaged over large spatial scales or long temporal scales. So we've got some thoughts about how we do that, but it's really it's new work. It's stuff that we can't pick up from the NWP guys, and our resources are limited. So, but it's on the radar.
Hi. So there's a question that's come from online, and I think it's for Jason. So you stated that the surface stations on the Greenland Plateau are available for data assimilation, which of course everyone in the room who's interested in this in stations in far off places in the world picked up their ears. These data are not included in ECMWF operations currently, and therefore they're not also available in near real-time update of ERA 5. Can they be?
Yes, they can be available with less than 1 hour latency. And the obstacle that has prevented the Greenland surface stations from coming into the global telemetry system was first the WMO codes. Some of the stations now have that. However, they were being kicked out of the GTS because of unknown station altitude. The barometric pressure is one of the most important assimilation variables, if I understand correctly. And if you don't know the absolute height of the barometer, that can throw off the model to some degree. So we are reconstructing the positions of the stations which are moving with the glacial flow, some more than others, and then some stations have been repositioned. So we now have, for every hour, a latitude, longitude, and elevation. It's easy to do with the new setups that have GNSS systems on board, but back in the mid-90s, we didn't do a very good job of establishing the height of the barometers, and however, we are reconstructing those positions again so that the level 1 or 2 product that is implementing now will, for every hour, have a position and an elevation. So we're very close to being able to get into operational assimilation. Go to promise.org to find out more. But it's nice to hear the question. It'll help us prioritize.
Fantastic. So I see one more burning question in the room. Let us have this as a last question. Jörg, go for it.
Thanks, Ali. So I'm Jörg Schultz from UMITSAT, and I have a question to the regional reanalysis in general and the use of the satellite data. I think Jason presented that you use some microwave sounding data, and so I saw some ASCAT data. So question number 1 is, are those the same as used or will be used in ERA 6? So what's the source of the data? And the second question is, I wonder, you made a point about you have more local observations. If you could see, in particular for the European reanalysis, also value in the use of higher resolution satellite observations in the data assimilation. So I think about assimilating cloud-affected infrared radiances from a geostationary satellite that would provide you much more information compared to what is assimilated in a global model, which would be much more concerning and towards your scale that you're operating in, which is very different from the global reanalysis. So is there any development visible in the next, say, 10 years on this?
Two very quick responses.
Yeah. First of all, I'm totally the wrong person to answer this question because I have really not detailed information of the assimilation in the regional reanalysis. But I mean, the regional reanalysis follow quite closely what is done at all national meteorological services in their regional weather forecasting setup. So I'm sure there is a development, and it follows closely to that. And also sometimes CARA might be able to use satellite information before the operational setups and vice versa. So yeah, not a good answer, but the only one I can give.
Peter. Oh, my apologies. I thought Peter wanted to speak.
I can chip in something. On the infrared cloudy radiance assimilation, as you know, that's a really, really tough problem that people have been working on for 20 years. And although they've made significant progress in the RT modeling and the error models, I think it's still some way off implementation, or an implementation that would give you benefits. So I guess that's a consideration that applies to global as well as regional. But I'm sure they'll get there one day, but it's not here now, I don't think.
Fantastic. Let's thank the members of the panel for their patience with time management and their contribution, and thank all of you for the interactive dialogue. Thank you.